we're just gonna wing it.
Okay.
We'll wing it. We'll try and get this thing in under the wire before my computer decides to turn itself into slag. That was, in fact, foreshadowing. And at the end of this, my computer did turn to slag, and we lost the last couple minutes of the recording, but it doesn't really take anything away from this awesome recap of CEDIA. So enjoy. Welcome to Inside Integration. My name is Chris, and today I am blessed to be joined by most of our Oliver marketing team. First, we'll start with my co-host and friend, Jayson.
Howdy, everybody.
And we're also joined by our bearded buddy in the Pacific Northwest, Jesse Pauley.
What's up?
And Oliver Marketing's own Vice President of Sales and Bay Area International Man of Mystery, Robert Dawson.
What's going on? Hello.
And we wanted to get the whole band together, or some of the band together, to discuss what we saw at CEDIA last week. We all ventured out to Denver and saw a lot of great stuff, and had some adventures along the way. And we thought we'd get the whole team here to kind of discuss some things that we saw.
Yeah, it's pretty exciting. Sort of in the shall we say, the post-CEDIA glow, for lack of a better description. To sort of kind of file through the last few days and sort of prioritize some of the highlights and certainly some of the big takeaways. And I'm not going to say lowlights because, frankly, I don't think there were any misses. At least from my observation, I didn't see any misses over the last few days. Like, it was a really, really great event. Maybe not the most product focused or innovative in terms of, hey, like, here's this new widget. But I would say, again, from my observation, generally speaking, very positive, very, heartfelt CEDIA. Is that the right way to put it?
It's, if a couple of years ago was special because it was everybody coming back together after the pandemic, this year kind of had a little bit of the same vibe where it was, everybody was real happy to see each other. And to your point, I think you're right. There wasn't anything really groundbreaking or earth shattering. There were some great demos, there were some great products, but it wasn't like, oh my God, you need to come over here right now and see this magical thing. Everything was kind of a little bit more iterative, like a lot like the Apple announcement yesterday, right? Well, it's okay, better specs, better things, bigger sizes, bigger whatever. And that's sort of how it felt, but definitely was great to see everybody. A lot of enthusiasm on the floor. It seemed like we were all kind of part of the same tribe, which is always a nice nice thing to have.
For all the division in the world, look at all of us having a big kumbaya moment in Denver. What a great place to do it in too, right? Like you're in Crunchy City, like the Rockies in the background. Everybody's happy to see each other. I think again, that just my personal observation on that. What'd you think, Robert? What was your big observation on the emotional vibe or otherwise at CEDIA this year?
Yeah, I mean it's always a pleasure to commiserate with our own team, see the dealers, but for me it's really about the upbeat attitude of the vendors, where we don't get to see face to face, especially the people kind of behind the scenes, right? We see the sales managers, but not necessarily always the ops people or the people that really make things happen. So I thought I agree with you 100%. The whole attitude and pump at the show was really positive. Yeah.
That's a great point too, is that these shows are typically, like, because it takes so much to actually run a show, it's usually all hands on deck on the manufacturer side, right? So when you go by their booth, to your point, you're going to meet an engineer, you're going to meet this person who, you would have never run into outside of, being at a show or whatever, because they're not going to come into the territory. You're probably not going to see them if you do a tour at their headquarters or anything. It's so it's nice to see all of these faces who try and make this stuff go,
Yeah, agreed. Yeah, and I agree with the assessment. There wasn't anything really revolutionary. It's always nice to see where the tech is going. I think there were some little glimpses that I'm sure we'll probably talk about later of kind of where the technology and is going to go in this industry. That's always exciting as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And so Jesse, this was your first foray into CEDIA writ large as a manufacturer's rep. And there's I know I know your schedule might have been a little bit over full at some point, just because, again, this is new. What's your takeaway?
Yeah, so this being my first one as a rep, my previous experience with CEDIA was, the distributor I worked for was part of the Powerhouse Group. So I was in the booth, just standing all day. I'd like to start by saying that being part of this team and the support you guys showed for me was huge, right? I deal with anxiety at times, and I definitely had that going into it. But having you guys by my side, everyone on the team, including Gerald, who's not on this with us today, but that was for me the most important part. I had the support I needed, right? I had plenty of appointments, but being able to go there the first, us being able to go in before the show started, meet with some of the vendors, kind of get a lay of the land, walking over construction materials. But for
Yeah,
me,
that
so
pre-day
yeah,
is usually.
it was great. I had a great experience. Try to get through as many booths as possible with who I've got tailing behind me. But I will say this too, that before any appointments and kind of riding Jayson's coattails a little bit, the guy couldn't go 10 feet without running into someone that he had to give a handshake and a hug to. And I was like, all right, this is cool. There was a couple times where I was like, I'm just going to move on to this other thing over here. I'll meet up with you later. But talk about a popular dude at CEDIA, man.
I don't know about all of that, but it is a blessing and a curse to have so many friends, right? So
that's kind of what I was thinking. The same thing. Like I'm sure he just wants to get from here to there and get to that next connection, but he was having a hard time getting between booths without someone grabbing him. Like, oh, hey, Jayson, which was cool to see, right? I'm glad to be part of a team that's got the experience that can help me become a better rep.
I don't know what the alternative is like, but I'm going to tell you right now, I don't want anything to do with the alternative to that situation. I'll take all the hugs and high fives I can get, as opposed to like boos and hisses and like.
Yeah, you don't want to be the guy walking through there and they're like,
oh God! Yeah, avoid eye contact immediately. Get this guy out of here.
So as the guy who was holding the camera, I can tell you exactly what that situation is like, where you walk through and suddenly, like, people you've known for 20 years are turning away from you and walking in the other direction, and it's definitely. And yeah, that was definitely noticed, right? Like all of a sudden, Jayson's walking down an aisle trying to lead a dealer from one thing to the other, and some dude runs up and it's like, "Hey, yeah, remember me? I was the hot dog vendor at some, Seattle Mariners game you went to 10 years ago." And it's like, "Oh yeah, hey, high five, keep on moving," right?
Yeah,
it was. I'm honestly surprised that you didn't run into anybody you knew, during the train podcast. Just, the guy picking his nose 3 rows behind us. I'm surprised you.
Yeah, for those of you if you don't know who we're talking about, check out the previous version or previous edition to this podcast, The Week of CEDIA, and watch it on YouTube. And obviously we've got some stuff to say, and maybe we've got a few challenged audio sections, but the background is really where the show begins and ends. if you're into a study of humanity, because it's all happening. You've got some interesting stuff going on outside the windows, but I'm sure the people on that train car were like, what are these goofs doing up there?
Nice. Public transportation. Yeah. Public transportation is always entertaining.
Yeah.
It was wonderful to intrude upon like their commute or whatever it was with just our stupidity, our absolute stupidity.
Yeah, it's good.
It's great.
Keeps everybody humble, and it's a fun way to start out the show. It's a fun way to start out the show.
So getting past the general show vibe and, again, great vibe and everything else. I mean, we're, let's get into it a little bit as far as, who were the must see booths, right? Like who had, obviously we've got the usual suspects, right? SI always has an amazing booth. Sony always has like an office block worth of, exhibition space. Sonance, is usually the slickest and coolest. And there's a lot of others. Who do you guys feel, really, really shone out, right? Like who had a great show presence that whether that's a great demo, a great booth, a great story, constant traffic. Who do you guys think stands out?
Yeah, Robert, I'll defer to you. Let's start with the top. What would you say, Robert?
Well, I would have to say that MadVR stood out for me. It was really that booth was packed every time you tried to get into it. It was really hard. They have a product that is probably category leading, maybe even um, something that every dealer can probably add to their systems. I thought the demo they did was fantastic. For those of you who don't know, MadVR makes basically a video processor that can be added to any front projection or any high end panel, and absolutely give you the best possible display. And that for me was probably one of the slickest demos out there, especially the split screen demo,
Yeah,
being able to
that
see pre-process versus post-process. I'm a killer.
yeah, and it is a great demo because it really, we've kind of gotten out of, like, years ago, you could do Lumagen or Ferrugia, right? There were all kinds of different external scalar boxes and that kind of thing, and it sort of went away for a little bit. I mean, maybe it didn't go away, but it just kind of lost the attention of the masses. And then MadVR comes out with this insane product that literally within the box itself, you can do a demo side by side, see what you're missing, see what is being restored by the MadVR. And their products were in a bunch of different booths. I think the one you're talking about is where they were kind of like in this little tiny corner of the Trinov
That's right.
booth here.
Yep.
And it was like literally just a display, and David and the I forget the gentleman's name, but the MadVR guy, and like they're just standing there at this little tiny table, and there's this huge crowd like standing here, and like people are looking over their shoulders to see what the demo is. And I fully agree. I think that was a great demo. It's a great product. I mean, that we're not just saying that because it's new to us. It's really super impressive.
They've got a ton of free press on this podcast before we ever signed them as a line, because we were excited about it. We were sending out the positive waves to the interverse to try to make it happen. So we kind of feel like it's an Inception situation. But I agree with you, Robert, and as well with you, Chris. To see David holding court with 50 or 60 of our closest industry affiliated people. And a line to try to get into that demo was really cool. Was really cool.
How about you, Jesse?
Yeah, I would say, just to continue with that, that little demo they had with one TV on the outside of their little theater they have with Trinoff, where Jayson and I kind of just pushed our way to the front. It's like, oh, we need to talk to that guy and listen to what he has to say. And there were some other people off to the side, but that was really cool to see it in person and have someone that really knows the product, their technical guy, kind of describing what he's doing as he's changing the screen. But like Robert said, that split screen, so you can actually see the side-by-side difference. And I believe that's actually built into their devices, where you can show a client, like a dealer can show a client that, like, here's what this did look like and here's what it actually looks like. And for most of us being in like major sports towns, a lot of sports fans. And when you showed the snowboarding video and the difference between the motion on one side to the other was huge. So it'd be great for watching sports. But yeah, that demo was really cool. For me, it being, just trying to get through as many booths as I could. And hopefully I didn't overdo it, but I did work the Sonance booth pretty hard because I had just visited their studio and saw that great room in person and listened to that great room in person. So I got as many guys through their demo as possible. And that was a pretty impactful demo to actually, hear what it means when you ask someone, what do you want your sound to look like, right? With small aperture invisibles and their new idea with immersive channels where they're kind of down low to the floor and where the audio just kind of surrounds you instead of like, oh, I hear it coming from those two speakers in the ceiling. So for me, that was the most impressive. The Salamander booth, that was great because you got to have an excuse to
took a little break
and recline for a minute. That was always my last one. Hit Screen Innovations and then go, hey, let's go check out Salamander. Whether you sell it or not, you're going to want to after you sit in this thing and get. guys to sit in that new electric Chase lounge and put their feet up for a minute and then going, I don't want to sit down. I don't know if I'm going to get up. My feet hurt. Like, you got to check it out. So that's kind of where I ended most of my tours. But
that's the furniture booths. The furniture booths at CEDIA almost seem like they're like a public service, right? Like there's no, there's always a couple of them. And I think smartly, right? Like if you looked at, and this is just based on conjecture, but if you looked at a CEDIA map, I think that CEDIA places these in strategic locations throughout the floor, just so that you can, maybe take a little break and get a little traffic to that booth.
Yeah.
Yeah. The Mork and Mindy eggs massage chairs or whatever. Just to make a really, really dated reference that anybody under 40 will not understand.
Nanu.
That's absolutely correct. Yeah, I mean, those egg chairs and that kind of the furniture stuff is always, always sort of like this, kind of cock your head to the side a little bit. Like, how does that really tie into AV? But that's because I'm looking at it from the AV filter, from the whole house perspective. Probably televisions and audio are probably the last things a lot of consumers are looking at. They're thinking about the furniture. They're thinking about the aesthetic of the room. And yeah, the picture and the sound's going to work itself out. I really care about what this stuff looks like. Right. So I'm not applying my perspective to that. And I agree with you. The furniture offerings across the board I think we're top notch this year from what we saw.
Yeah. And, again, Salamander always puts on a great, it's furniture and they have their stuff in situ. And that is, furniture is definitely something that you need to see it and touch it and feel it and, see what a 6 bay wide cabinet actually looks like, because it's not going to come across.
Big boy.
It was.
It was big boy. I like that.
I mean, hey, bigger TVs, right? Bigger cabinets, more places to put your stuff without having to, frame something out. I think it's great.
Yep.
And they're great new fabric options and that kind of thing. And yeah, again, it's all tactile, right? Like you need to be able to feel what that thing feels like. And
the Mateo is back, baby. Come on. The most popular chair of their lineup ever is back in the lineup. So, making a return to the fold, making a return to greatness. And I mean, aesthetically, like the visuals on that chair, not wildly different, but just a way to see how it all folds out, and you're only 3 inches from the wall, and all the improvements that they've made to that product over the years. I think again, there wasn't anything incredibly wildly newly innovative. There was just a constant progression of innovation, I think, across the bulk of the stuff that we saw. Right.
Again, it seems like it kind of fits with the theme. It's iterative.
Yep.
Like everything is getting better, especially those options. It's hard to kind of show at a trade show, but their new configurator is great. Works really, really well. They have that ottoman, and this isn't, I guess, a new product, but it was new to me. They have like this little ottoman that the top of the thing pops up and there's a chair inside. So, perfect chair for a kid in a living room. And when the kid starts screaming, you just close them in it and call it a day.
They call it, they call it the jump seat. So that's something they had in the past. But again, like you said, kind of, taking what they already have and making it better, right? So they kind of revamped that thing. They've got different foam in it, different, it's built a different way, but it's kind of the same concept. But yeah, it's something they used to have in the past, and they just, it's a new version of it. But yeah, the jump seat is a cool thing for sure.
Yeah, and I think
definitely attention catching.
Yeah, I think the one other big thing on the Salamander, obviously everything you guys saw, but the level of customization now. Beforehand, when we could put the chairs into the configurator and put it into the room, and unfortunately found out that the seats were now 4 inches into the walkway. We had nothing to. Now we can customize it. We can make it 4 inches shorter. We can make it 2 inches higher. We have complete customization, which is something we just never had before, which is, I think that's just going to be great for all of our dealers, so they can say yes to everything.
True.
Much easier than reframing the wall.
Much easier.
Yes. to get a wider love seat in there, right?
Your chairs are in. We're going to have to knock this wall out to get this
in. Don't worry about it. We'll just notch this down. It's no big deal. I know it's finished. It's fine. We can fix that.
Yeah.
The other one that kind of, left the mark, and it was the same story last year. If you go back to, our recap stuff last year, I mean, SI, again, like what they have, like 6 new products or something like that.
At least. Yeah.
The chaos, the origami, the Nino, new black diamond, new carbon black on the drop down from the 0G with 16-foot drop before your screen starts. You're like you start listing all this stuff off to guys that are walking in the booth, and you just start to see their eyes start to roll like slot machines a little bit faster and faster and faster. Like, okay, where do we start? I think overall the reception to that, to the origami and to the Nino, generally really, really positive. Certainly the chaos stuff speaks for itself with Robin and Shannon and
Everybody,
Jeremy
everybody in that
Burkhardt.
booth.
Jeremy Burkhardt, whoever you can think of, trying to do like a 4-point stance into the barrier there. Like, okay, keep your head up, don't break your neck, don't put your head down.
I witnessed that as well.
It was pretty great. I loved what we saw from Screen Innovations, and not to steal your thunder, but I wanted to throw out there from the maybe non-S brands for my personal takeaways were some of the E and L brands that we deal with. Certainly Ergo with the mounts and that kind of stuff. A lot of that metal just kind of gets overlooked. And yeah, it's just a bracket. Who cares? I don't know. How about a articulating arm with a 31-inch standoff with a 100-inch TV
for your 98 and pull that sucker all the way out, work on it, push it all the way back.
Yeah, I watched how many dealers pull that thing away from the wall, and you just like my eyes are getting bigger. So I'm like, he's gonna pull his booth like right. It's gonna pull it right off the wall. And
or the wall's gonna fall down.
Right, exactly. Jerry and Bill are like, yeah, it's fine, it's no big deal. And I'm like, are you sure? And they're like, check it out. Like swinging it around and
hanging on the thing,
getting crazy. I was like, okay, you got me. I'm sold. That was really fun actually to take some dealers through that booth and that experience. But the other L brands that we've got, with Lucetta, Lightline, and Lightheaded was actually really fun to bring our dealers through, because a lot of them are used to dealing with the big L out there, right? What Lutron or what have you, or they're using some other product lines for low voltage lighting. To be able to have those conversations and be able to talk about those business plans, and again to focus on the aesthetic of a customer's home and project from their perspective, as opposed to hey, here's all the wonderful things I can do to keep you entertained. Here's stuff that we can sell you that'll blow your neighbors' minds and make them envious of how luxurious or how beautiful your home is, or how the lighting design in your house works, or that kind of stuff. For me, those were the fun boosts to take them through. The big innovations that we saw, of course, from Lucetta with the pixel chasing linear product, as well as the low voltage panel, where you can have high voltage come in and you can have all your dimmers mounted in there, and it's all NEC rated to code. That's a huge innovation that very few of the manufacturers out there have. And then of course Lightline and Lightheaded with custom trims, custom options, wet rated IEC, retro lighting, first and only in the world. Just different solutions, different products. And again, for us, it just opens up that ability to have the solutions when the guys come to us. Hey, what do you have for this? I have a solution for that, and here we go. And this is what the partnership looks like. It's really fun to have more tools in our belt, more bullets in our gun to get out there and shoot those opportunities down.
Right, the beauty of CEDIA, where you can take the person there and actually show it to them functioning, and like the Lightheaded stuff, where it was kind of like a recessed little track. You can get different sizes, and you're looking at it from the side, and it doesn't look like the lights turned on. And when you show someone something like that, and they're like, whoa. So that's the great thing about having CEDIA, and they can see it. So one of the guys I took through Lucetta, he's a C4 guy. He's been using nothing but their Vibrant stuff. Are you guys familiar with that? It's all Vibrant is C4's linear stuff, and that's all he uses. So I'm like, okay, I need you over here. Zeebs wasn't available, but I grabbed like their youngest, most timid looking sales guys, and this guy I've got with me, he's old school. He's an older guy, and he'll get set in his ways. I'm like, I kind of set him loose on him, and he was actually impressed with the product, and the dude did really well. he got some information, and I kind of set him up, but did handle it awesomely. I wish I could remember the guy's name, but so he walked out of there with a new idea of what other linear lighting's out there and what's available and what's possible. So their booth was really cool, and all the people in there are awesome. And I got a
It
free hat. So
consistently. Well, I
Yeah,
mean,
there you go.
you got to go with that, right? All the good swag, right? Like
Bought your loyalty with a
bought
flat
your
brim.
loyalty.
Yeah.
just
it's
my
still.
style.
I mean, it still constantly surprises me how crazy people get over linear, right? Like, and I'm sure you guys have all seen this because you're our reps. You start talking to a guy about like linear lighting, and they're like, whatever, who gives it? I don't care. And you start showing them demos and examples, and like, hey, this is what somebody did in their project. This is what somebody did in their project, and like, it's like, forgive the pun, but like the lights go on, and now. And we saw a lot of that at the show, right? People walking around these booths and they're like, "Oh yeah, that's linear. Okay, I can that would totally be cool. Yeah, I could do that. It's not just coves, it's different kind of accents and that sort of thing. And it really sort of turns people on to like, wow, linear lighting is a real thing, and like they they walk away and they're totally jazzed about it.
People love it.
Yeah.
Lucetta does that so well. It's so impressive. And as far as Lightline and Lightheaded, these are all of these lighting things, and how popular all of these lighting booths were. Not just the lines we represent, but like DMF and WAC Aspire and all of these booths. It really kind of demonstrates the trend that we're all still marching towards. CI guys are getting into lighting. Like it is, it is absolutely happening, and it's a cool thing. It's another revenue stream, and that's good for anybody.
Agreed. Yeah.
Yeah.
What was your favorite booth or demo overall? I think we've heard MadVR, but like, was there an experience that you guys saw? I know for me, the one booth or the one demonstration that was really the most impressive, near and dear to my heart, of course, because I'm a video nerd. And I'll just draw a circle around all three of them. Were the live demos in the Sony booth? They went kind of out of their.
Shocker.
They went out of their way. No, but again, fair comparison to anybody else that was on the floor. Can you name anybody that had 4 different live demos
Nope.
where you could go in and see the best projector, you could go in and see the biggest video wall, you could see the best backlighting system on the market in a display? Oh, and if you didn't want to wait in line on the show floor and you just happened to be down in the convention center lobby, they've got a separate box. It's just full of Andrew Turner and projector and ES audio. Like, I mean, they kind of killed it on the experiential game, at least from my point of view.
Their A and B demo of the old projector and the new projector, and I haven't said it old, but the previous version
Yeah,
of the projector,
7000
the new
versus
projector,
the Bravia 9.
it was so well done. It was so when I saw it, it was great. Our pal Russell Warnoff was in there, and I'm not just saying this because we love him, but the A and B that they were able to do between the previous version and the new version, that's the kind of demo I think people want to see at CEDIA, right? Like, give me a reason to sell this thing and give me a story behind it. Here's how I can personally show you how the blacks look between last generation and this generation. Here's the difference. Here's where, there's some banding in this one. This picture looks great, but there's a little bit of banding if I point it out, and this one has nothing. And
Right.
it's, here's what the faster processor does for you. I thought that was an excellent demo.
That's pretty brilliant, because you could talk about a new product and show that new product, but if you're not directly comparing it to something else, and it could look amazing,
it's all abstract.
Like, cool, but I don't remember what the last one looked like and what kind of screen was it on. But like you said, with that backlight demo, it was really cool to see that and take guys through there and show them the importance of being able to dim LEDs rather than just having certain LEDs get brighter while the other ones stay on, and comparing it to a competitor's panel and seeing, oh, I can actually see detail of the image just through the LEDs because of the power of dimming LEDs rather than just blasting all the LEDs to enhance the image. That was pretty powerful.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and not many vendors are willing to put their competitor's product side by side in their booth. I
Hmm.
mean, that's
Hmm.
that's pretty compelling. There's a it's a pretty strong message being delivered by Sony and their mini LED technology. That's for sure.
Yeah, it's yeah, you got to be careful because some people will take, that direct comparison is, maybe the gauntlet being thrown down. Okay, now it's time to go, 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 like all bets are off. But yeah, I think they've represented what their products are fairly and accurately. I
Agreed.
will say that there were some other manufacturers on the floor who shall remain nameless who tried to do some comparisons with maybe some of our products or maybe some other competitive products that it was pretty clear that they were doing everything they could to make sure that they won. They looked better in those comparisons as opposed to just presenting the product. It seemed really focused on, hey, we need to make sure we stomp these other brands into the ground as opposed to just, hey, here's what we're doing versus some other people. Maybe it smacked of a little bit of a desperation, but I don't have to worry about that because I don't sell those brands because I'm not mentioning them specifically on this podcast. But hey, there you go.
Retail mode.
Well said.
That's
Yeah.
right.
Subtle.
Hey, if you weren't there, you don't know who I'm talking about, and if you were there, you still don't know exactly what I'm talking about. So we're not here to shill for other people, and a little bit of controversy. We're going to court just a little bit on this podcast.
Yeah.
Yeah,
There you
if
go.
you disagree, leave it in the comments. If you
That's
work for the
right.
company that Jayson is totally pooping on right now, please leave it in the comments.
Bring it. I'm right
We're all
here.
about that.
I'm right here. I didn't name anybody, so if you feel, if you have a guilty conscience, you may self-identify. So I'm excited to see those emails.
Come at me, bro.
That's
Come at
right.
me.
Come
Come
at
at
me,
me.
bro.
Nice. Nice.
So that's yeah, that's I think that's some good insight. And again, obviously demo wise, I mean, how do you beat Sonance, right? Like they literally, and this is all kind of fresh in our heads because we were all at the Experience Center pretty recently. Jesse was there a couple weeks ago, really, and they brought that demo to the show with. There's this great video. I'm just going to describe it. If you've seen it, great. If you haven't seen it, you need to see it. You need to get to the Experience Center or see this thing, whenever you can in person. But essentially, they have this video and they walk through different particulars of a room. And while it's going, there's different speakers that are turning on and really showing you the differences between just a couple of points of sound and reinforced sound and how this works. And like you're kind of milling around this room and you really see the advantages to what they're preaching, with more sound reinforcement and everything else. And I mean, I thought it was pretty amazing because they literally took what they have in their own controlled facility and they took that thing on the road, and I mean, they just knocked it out of the park.
They did, and the fact that the video is playing, but the audio is going along with it, even the lighting, because
Yeah.
they mentioned lighting, they mentioned air and comfort, they mentioned all of the stuff that you would have in your home, and then being able to see it on the screen what you're listening to. That was really cool, kind of like just like the Experience Center, but it was so well done. Yeah,
Yeah.
I got some when I said bye to those guys before I left, and Jayson from Sonance, he's like, "Thanks for working the booth so hard." I was like, I was enjoying it myself. Like every time I got to go through there, I didn't just send the guy into the demo like, "All right, get in there, I'll meet you on the other side." I went in every time to the point where Mark would be
Man.
up front going, how many of you have been to our studio? And I'd raise my hand. He's like, "All right, Jesse, you don't
Yeah.
count.
You
You
don't
count,
count
but you don't
anymore.
count." Stop raising your hand. But yeah, it was pretty impressive how they were able to correlate the video with what you were experiencing audibly, and even the lighting.
Yeah, the video editing dork in me really was impressed by all of these things they put together. The
Dude,
widget
the
that's
sound
like now
waves. I
the
mean,
sound waves. And I mean,
crazy.
I talked to their video guy like at length about that at the show. Like, hey, I've been trying to figure out how to do this. Can you teach me? And it's a whole process. Super cool. It just shows how much work they put into really making a great demo. And the demo itself is just absolutely amazing. As far as some of the bigger ones, I mean, I know URC had a massive, they had a massive booth as they always do, and it was definitely what's great about URC is that they kind of show, they show everything they have. Like they bring the world out to this show. So if there's a driver for it, usually they'll have an example of it there. If they have a new remote this year, they have that. You can touch it. There's multiple stands. Um, And I mean, their big, their big reveal was, new driver for Sonos, which is great. That's got, it's got search now, which is kind of puts them past a couple of the other control system providers. New remotes that got released pretty recently, right? That's still their thing, and their nice, feel good in your hand remotes. What else were they showing there? I'm
New,
drawing a blank.
new keypad integration with Black Nova, one of
That's
our brands. New
that was
configurable keypad. Yeah, those were the big ones. And I'll just second they're definitely hearing the feedback from the dealer base that they need to elevate beyond their current form factor of kind of the remotes that we all in this industry grew and love over the past 15, 20 years. But they're starting to get more of an elevated look. So they're matching more of the Savants, the Control 4s, the Crestron Home,
right,
and
right.
more being at home in that space with that upgraded look and feel. So kudos to them. They did a really good job.
Yeah, agreed. And one nice thing about them as well is that, yeah, they have a huge booth, but they also have a ton of people working it.
Yeah.
So if you roll in, like, you're not kind of standing around waiting. Somebody is pretty much on you, and they're knowledgeable. They know the layout of the booth and everything else. So that was impressive to me. Speaking of remotes, one of the big things from our partner is that Josh Edge, the Josh.AI Edge remote that I think first time being seen in public was at this show,
Yeah,
right? That was
they
the
were so worried that there's people were going to walk off with them that they kept them under lock and key for the
right.
whole event. I was like, how come you don't have one out on the floor? And they're like, this thing is going to walk away from here. And I'm like, it's probably true.
Good
Like,
point.
you got,
chained to like a hubcap, like a bathroom
or
key
like
at
Yeah.
a gas
the
station.
camera boat at Best Buy in the '90s with that retractable cable on it,
Yeah.
so it snaps back to the countertop or whatever on the display. I was kind of teasing them a little bit. I was like, why don't you just put it on a retractor? And Alex didn't really seem to get my humor, so I just kind of let it go. But yeah, I agree. That was a very impressive booth. They're making a statement, of intent of, we are a control company. We are something that you can utilize to control your house and your office or what have you. And voice is not the one thing that Josh is capable of. And I think they made it
Yeah, it was cool that it was.
they made
Sorry,
it
it was. I
impression.
was just gonna say it was really cool to see someone simplify a remote, right? How many clients out there are using their Apple TV remote because it's easy and it's small and it's simple, or like my wife would prefer to grab the Xfinity remote because it's got a microphone on it or something. But just to have that little, I think Jayson called it a candy bar remote. Um,
Yep.
Yep.
it's got pictures on the buttons. There's not a lot. There's no screen. Like my wife doesn't like grabbing our universal remotes because
And it's configurable. Those little buttons on there,
exactly,
Yeah.
you can
and it's not.
configure
You
them
can tell
for
it
all
what
kinds
you
of cool
want it to
stuff.
do. Yeah. So like, okay, in this room where my wife watches TV, I want her to just be able to hit this button and go and
Yep.
not have to worry about it. But it was cool to see that.
Yeah, they're definitely they show that they're listening as well. Like, they are
Yeah.
absolutely taking that feedback from their dealers, and it's getting weaved into every iteration of these products that they're making. So let's change gears a little bit. I mean, that's hardware. We talked about booths. We talked about hardware. We talked about our vendors. Kind of give everybody a bear hug here. What as far as extracurriculars at CEDIA, what are some highlights? I think I know what everybody's going to say, but it involves a story of somebody getting shot. But we don't need to get into that part of it.
That's
Those who know.
yeah. That's behind the paywall on the Patreon.
Yeah.
In a
Yeah.
few in
Hit
a
up
few
our
months,
Patreon for that,
exactly.
Yeah.
right?
There you go. There you go.
Man, extracurriculars. Boy, it's hard to. I mean, it's hard to put a fine point on any one. I mean, there were some parties that were very visible. Obviously, Coastal Source with just video walls, and that right across the street from the convention center. I mean, how do you miss that, right? Like,
Right.
booming party, and it's every night, So, I mean, I'm obviously not on Saturday night, but Thursday night, Friday night, they're out there, and that, like, come on down, like, let's go.
It's
So,
cool.
speaking to that community, it looked like the Snap 180i Residio party was a smashing success,
That
from
was
what I could
that was the
see.
billiard place, right?
Oh well, that was the unofficial after party. The one that was down
Tarantula.
but yeah, the one that was down by the Chop House and Grand Union Station and all that stuff. I guess they had a 2-story rent
That's
out
right.
buyout thing. I was looking at it as a casual observer from the outside, watching them turn away people that were trying to get in, like regular civilians. They're like, "Oh, this looks these guys are having a great time." They're like, "No, private event, kick rocks."
Son.
So it was
See,
it was
the move there.
it was
The
kind of
move
fun.
there would be for that bouncer to ask, randos just AV related questions, like, can you give me the pinout for RS-232? Like, if they
Yeah.
get it right, you go in. If you don't, you're out.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, for me, I guess whatever. I gotta play for the home team. The Sony Diamond Dealer event, as always, second to none. How do you beat that? Like honestly, with Punch Bowl Social, with bowling, with retro arcade games, with 30,000 square feet of booze and food and people that you know and love. Sorry, that was the biggest one for me.
I mean, if I'm being honest, they could have had ice sculptures. That's really, for
Oh,
really,
wow.
Which kind of leads me into, I think, probably the more surreal event was the
surreal.
Josh.AI event at
100%.
stately Wayne Manor. I mean, that was
If you've ever read The Great Gatsby, this place was every part of The Great Gatsby.
very, very, very cool. I mean, it was great to see people, but it was it was a little bit weird walking into that back patio and just looking around, going, "Wow, this one guy owns this whole place." So
This isn't
not too
some
shabby.
sort of institution. Nope.
Yeah.
And when the ice sculpture falls, it's time to go home.
Yeah, I gotta say, I feel bad for my buddy Jesse from Arizona. Walks up to take a picture. I took a picture of the Josh ice sculpture nanoseconds before it melted, and when I looked at the picture afterwards, I can see exactly where it's about to break. So like, I walk away. He's like, "Oh, I gotta grab this picture," and like as he's pulling his phone out, it just crumbles in front of him, and of course everybody at the party's like, "Oh, no!"
Noisily. It collapsed noisily and onto the floor and
Yeah.
drew everybody's attention. It was like somebody skipped the record.
I thought he bumped the table.
No, it couldn't happen to
He
a
was just standing there
sweeter.
with his phone like,
It couldn't have happened to a sweeter dude, man. Yeah, love that guy. Oh, I felt so bad.
It wasn't.
It was different Jesse.
I was nearby.
It was interesting because literally his commentary was, "Oh, I want to take a picture of this before it melts." Like
He said it out loud too. He did say it out loud.
Oh man,
it's great.
That was a good time.
Yeah.
So yeah, go ahead.
I was going to say, what was your favorite extracurricular there, Jess?
Well, that one for sure, because it was so interesting, and you walk into a place like that, and you're like, "Am I supposed to be here?" But yes, I'm on the list. It was it was a weird place, but so we're on our way out, right? And there's 2 bathrooms, and it's super fancy. One has like an entryway with a sink, and then the bathrooms in there. And there was kind of a line, and I let a woman go ahead of me on this side, and I'm like, oh, this one's open. Then I see this guy run up, and I'm like, oh, he must really have to go.
Yeah.
So I let him go, and then I waited, and I was like, okay, these guys are calling an Uber. Jayson texted me.
3 minutes out.
After we've already been outside.
It was, the amount of time the guy was in there, I'm like, great, I know exactly what's going to happen. He comes out.
He probably knew exactly what was happening.
I go in, I take a leak, I come out, and as soon as I come out, there's a line of people, and the guy goes in, and I'm like, dude, it wasn't me. And of course, when someone says that, they're like, yeah. Right, you just dropped a major deuce in this rich guy's toilet. Like, I'm like, of course.
Well,
of course. So whoever those guys were saw this big hairy guy come out of the bathroom. And they're like, "Oh, this guy just destroyed it."
Yeah.
But it was the guy before me, and I'm like, "Whatever."
You know what, man?
Just walk away.
He's wringing his beard out.
Move on.
That's profiling. That's not against the rule.
That's right.
Total profiling. Like, oh, that guy had too many kebabs and killed it.
But there you go.
Well, one for me was a dinner I was invited to, which was really cool. It was a little more intimate. It was Scott Foco with Sonance and Mike Cleary with Sonance, and we had one of one of our main dealers from Portland and then another dealer from Utah. And it was cool meeting people from another region, right? Doing the same thing our dealers do here. And that was a really good dinner. The idea was to have dinner, kind of get to know each other, and then bounce out to the Sony Diamond Dealer showcase, which I didn't get to see because our dinner went so well and we were vibing so good with each other. And if anyone's ever had the chance to meet Mike Cleary,
oh yeah,
one of the
Yeah.
one of the most amazing humans
one of the
on
biggest
planet.
scoundrels
And
of the
I got to sit next to him, and it was really cool having dinner with the guy. And it was funny we got done too late to go to the Sony thing, and we're standing out front, and Foco made a comment. He's like, he mentioned that Mike Cleary's blood type is B positive, and I was like,
wow, so
that could be more
true.
appropriate.
Yeah, we love some Mike Cleary.
Got to be one of the most positive people I've ever met, and genuine too. He's not faking it. That guy's not.
fake.
He's
not
the
real deal.
That's the real deal. So that was my, one after hours thing. But great, there was a lot of other things going on. Some things I didn't get to go to or have dinner with certain people, but for me that felt good. Right, that was a good connection. And getting to know one of our dealers better. Who, this particular dealer is they're 3 hours outside of Portland. So being in distribution, I know everybody, but some of them I never met in person because I was behind a counter in a warehouse, right? But
just know them through a PO.
No, yeah, just like clerking hard, putting out fires. But it was, so for me, that was best experience. We had a place called the Yardbird.
You did well. Food. You went to a great restaurant with great people. Sounds like a win-win all the way around.
Just know if you go there, they only serve brisket on Fridays and Saturdays. So we had some disappointed people. And then we're like, we'll get the filet. And they're like, we're out of filet. So the ribeye was good. You can also get chicken and waffles if you want.
Failing upwards as we go. Oh, no.
We're really trying to test Mike Cleary by putting all these roadblocks. Let's see if we can make Mike go off the rails by there's no brisket tonight. And filet, sorry, we don't have that either.
The whole table's like, come on.
Come on.
I would say extracurricular wise, I think my highlight was getting a personal shout out from Sony's very own KT at the Sony Awards dinner that Oliver Marketing took home 2 awards at. That was
there you go.
Definitely a highlight. And not having to carry him home also.
Oh yeah, big cheer for us. I'm looking at them off camera right now, so there you go. I'm keeping them shiny. They're polished, dusted, nicely lighted, perfectly.
How cool for
Jayson
me
just chucked it in
new
the
to
drawer.
The team and getting to go up on stage with you guys, but the comment of, hey, you won and you didn't even do anything. That was funny.
Yeah, well, you joined a winning team.
That's it.
Wow.
That's it.
I won't say her name, but it was pretty funny when she said we were already on the stage, and I was like, oh yeah, you're right. I didn't.
You're part of the band now, buddy. It's kind of like.
Right.
It's like when,
I even said something to you guys when walking up there. I was like, am I supposed to go up
yes.
there?
Yes.
Yeah. Look at your badge. Did it say Oliver?
Then yes. This is a theme.
Come on.
Hey, man, we got up there. I handed her a podcast sticker. I don't care.
It's
whatever.
It's like when Jason Newsted joined Metallica. It's not his fault. It's not his fault.
Right. There's no cliff here. Everybody's still alive.
That's right. It's all good.
Yeah, and I would add that in the travels, talking to the different vendors, all of them, even though we may not have gotten a word, they certainly recognize all of you guys' hard work. So they always mention and say, hey, you guys are always working for us. Really appreciate all the shout outs, and you're doing things differently than the other rep firms are. So that's high praise, especially from a lot of the guys we talked to.
We did notice some competitive rep firms have made a foray into the social marketing arena to varying degrees of impression or success, and I welcome that. I think that's kind of the shift that this industry is taking. I think reality is that there's going to be more asks for partnership like that. So it's nice to know that some people have taken notice of what we're doing, and trying to make their own thing out of it. To varying degrees of success. I'll position that, I think, appropriately. But again,
that's
great to
that's
see.
a wise distinction to make,
Yeah.
Jayson. Good
Oh,
job.
I don't want to poke the bear too hard, because then you get bit. But it's fair to say that we're seeing a shift, I think, in what reps bring to the table and what the expectations are from vendors, and it's fun to be an example of, hey, you should be trying to be more like what those guys are doing, or maybe you should take a look at what they've got going on and maybe
Yep.
see what you could spin it up to. So
That's always a nice thing, and then they take that advice and they listen to a show like this or some of the other drivel that we've put out, like a podcast on a train, and it really just kind of throws everybody off the scent, which is where we want to be.
That's exactly right. Right when you least expect it, that's when the tiger bites you. Right. That's what
right.
I'm going for.
Bites you right in the face.
Yeah, I think some of the best advice I got from you guys is, and part of my success distribution, I was just being myself, and you're just yourself, which works. And I think that our moment on the train and whatever was happening in the background, that was just us being ourselves, talking about CEDIA and our former experiences, and what are some pro tips and stuff like that. That Denver airport is a mess, dude. That was weird. That was my first time in Denver and leaving the show, and got in the Uber. He was late picking me up. There was an accident on the freeway, and all I could think about was like, I don't know anything about this airport. And I remember Jayson saying, "Yeah, you're going to be going this way." Then
And that is where everything fell apart. So we did not get to say goodbye, but on behalf of myself and Jayson and Jesse and Robert, we thank you for joining us today, and hope you got something out of it. As always, please like and subscribe, and we will see you on the next one. Hang on, let me do that again. Sorry about that.
Oh man, it's not live. Do it live.
Oh, right?
Damn it.
Oh, man, I want to do that.
we'll
someday.
do it live.
That's it.
Someday we're gonna do a live show. Someday. Today's not the day.
It's not that day.
Today is not that day.